All right. Are we doing this? Let's see here. YouTube has been giving me a pretty hard time today. So let's uh let's see how things are going here. All right, it looks like YouTube is waking up. Rockfin, where you at? There's Rockfin. Okay. It looks like we got all right, Rockfin is awake. YouTube, you are awake. Um, yeah. Somebody say hello. And let me know that everything's coming in clear here. I've been having some trouble with the settings today. The settings have been giving me a hard time. I'm pretty sure YouTube that this stream is demonetized. Um, so there's that. We don't have monetization's not a thing today. Come here, loose. Oh, okay. And I just lost the dashboard. Okay. All right. Well, I don't know where exactly we're at here. Um, YouTube's been giving me a really hard time, and unfortunately, this is nothing new. Fortunately, this is nothing new. I I'm considering just I don't know. I wish if I could take this show off YouTube, I would. I've said that before. Um, but it's just, that's just where so many people go. So many people, that's where they watch this show. So it'd be hard to just take it off YouTube. I can't really, but now I've completely lost the dashboard entirely. So I don't even know if we're live. Um, wow. And it won't refresh. Okay, it looks like you guys are saying that we're here. Okay. So someone in the chat, just let me know, are we good? Can everything be seen and heard over on YouTube? I know we're good on Rockfin. I'm pretty sure we're good on Twitter, but are we good on YouTube? And sorry for this delay, folks, but I've been having it's been giving me a hard time all day. All right. Yes, we're good. Okay, everything's good. All right, cool. All right. Sorry about that, folks. YouTube has been giving me a hard time all day. Um, and that's nothing new. They always make things miserable. YouTube always makes things miserable. Now is no different. I wish I could take this show off of YouTube, but I can't, at least not anytime soon. A lot of you guys get this show on YouTube. You rely on this show on YouTube, which I get. So I can't take it off of YouTube. I'm pretty sure we're demonetized. I wasn't able to monetize today, so we're probably demonetized. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm pretty sure I will be demonetized permanently. I'm demonetized most of the time. I think we're demonetized today because of the we're talking about testing. That's probably not allowed. We're also talking about the George W. Bush event. So hey guys, if you're able, patreon.com/Roplacode. Can't rely on super chats anymore because all too often the super chat function is not working properly, and I don't actually get the super chats that people try to send. Although I guess someone was just able to send one. All right, cool. Well, I don't know. I can't see the dashboard, but what's up, everybody? Whatever. It is what it is. YouTube gives me a big headache. And Venetia David, thank you for the super sticker. It looks like they let you send that. So that's good. They're telling me this stream is demonetized, but it looks like you were able to send me something. Thank you so much for that, Venetia. And yeah, I'll keep an eye on things. But thank you guys so much. All right, let's get started. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good day. Happy Wednesday. We did not have a show yesterday. And the reason why we did not have a show yesterday kind of dovetails into the first thing I wanted to talk about that's going on in the news. So let's get into it. On Monday, I found out this was Monday late afternoon. I found out that I was around somebody who had tested positive for COVID-19. So I was exposed to COVID very directly. And I, decided, okay, I need to go get tested. I need to find out if I have this. I am vaccinated. I also was not showing any symptoms. I'm still not, but I, realized I need to find out if I have this for a number of reasons. I mean, first of all, for the sake of anybody around me who I would come in contact with, for the sake of if I were to have it and could potentially give it to my wife, who then could potentially spread it at her workplace. I mean, for a number of reasons, obviously I needed to go get tested right away. So yesterday I spent the entire morning at in urgent care getting tested. And so that's why we didn't have a show yesterday. Now, as you may have seen, I was posting videos about it. I was documenting the entire experience. My test results were negative. So I don't have it. And as of now, and it's probably been, I'm thinking I was likely exposed on Friday. Like it was definitely at some point over the weekend. I'm thinking it was likely Friday, which means, Tuesday would have been about the 5-day mark. And yeah, so I tested negative. And as of now, I've not shown any symptoms. I'm thinking I likely would have shown symptoms by now. So that's cool. But here's the deal. This goes into the testing crisis that we have here in the United States that nobody talks about. No one talks about how we do not have free and easily available testing everywhere and available to everyone as feasibly as possible. Other countries who have COVID under better control than we do have done that. That's one of the pieces to the puzzle that they have that we don't. And they're finally starting to talk about this a little tiny bit. But check this out. Where are the tests? So this was a piece from the New York Times. Other countries are awash in COVID tests. The U.S. is not. People have refused to mention this part. And I usually point to Denmark. When you look at the pandemic, I point to Denmark and I see what's going on in Denmark. Now, one of the things that they have, testing extensively everywhere, especially in their schools. In Denmark, they were testing teachers twice a week. It was available, it was everywhere. And they were testing teachers twice a week to make sure that teachers didn't have COVID and would pass it on to students, especially, elementary school kids. They're mostly not vaccinated. They're very vulnerable. It's susceptible. They were testing them twice a week. Here in the United States, a quarter of all of our new cases are coming from our school children. We're not doing what's necessary to protect our school children, which should come as no surprise. You know why? Because bullets have been flying in the classrooms for 20 years and we've done nothing. But I digress. So here's this thread here. Thanks to the New York Times for bringing the focus onto the U.S. problem. I agree. I'm not a big fan of the New York Times, but I'm glad a piece like this is finally freaking out there. And some people have been advocating this since the start of the pandemic. Rapid testing allows people to learn within minutes whether they are carrying enough of the COVID-19 virus to be contagious. With this knowledge, infectious people can stay home and quarantine before they can infect others, and everyone else can carry on with life. In Britain, France, and Germany, rapid testing is widely available and inexpensive thanks to government subsidies. People can visit testing sites and get tested at no charge. Many people also keep tests in their homes and self-administer them. In England, you can get up to 7 tests completely for free. In most countries in the EU, tests are under $1. Here in the United States, we're trying to get it into the range that home tests are between $12 and $40. That's what we're shooting for here in the United States. We're trying to get it between 12 and 40. Biden's trying to put more money into testing, and hopefully it's going to get it between $12 and $40. EU countries, it's under $1, and in many cases free. Oh, and going to places, I'll use myself as an example. Again, I needed a test right away. I needed to know if I was carrying this thing. So the only place, now there's places that do conduct free COVID tests, some pharmacies and some health centers. It is available in the United States, yes. But if your area is anywhere like mine, you ain't getting an appointment anytime soon. I pulled up a map. I checked everywhere around me. Nothing was available. And I needed a test. I needed to know, do I have this? Not even so much for me. Again, I was feeling no symptoms. It wasn't about me. It was about everyone else around me. So the only place I was able to go was in urgent care, and it cost me $30. Oh, and I have health insurance, by the way. I'm not uninsured. I have health insurance. It's not very good health insurance, and it's grossly overpriced, but I do have health insurance. It cost me $30. Now, for someone who's in a situation where they need to get tested regularly, $30 every day, that adds up. Not everybody can afford that. A lot of people can't. That's a lot of money when you add it up. So we have a testing crisis, and nobody talks about it. I mean, finally, like a piece like this is out there that other countries, they have testing available everywhere, and it's free or incredibly inexpensive. It's free or it's under $1. Here, well, you might pay $30. Or if it's free, you're going to be waiting. You're not going to know quickly. We have a testing crisis. It is infinitely important to get a pandemic under control for people to be able to test and find out if they have it or not. Especially since, especially among vaccinated people, you might have it and not have many symptoms. In the case that I'm part of, where I was around somebody in close proximity who tested positive, that person did not and still isn't having any symptoms. They are vaccinated. They were a breakthrough case. They weren't having any actual symptoms other than they woke up and they couldn't smell or taste anything. They couldn't smell or taste anything. So they're like, okay, this isn't normal. So they go and they get tested. And then they find out like, okay, we have it, or they have it. And so they contacted people they were in close proximity with. But again, everyone else also vaccinated. And, we have all been getting tests. And so far, everyone has been negative, myself included. So that's just what's going on. I'll also tell you this about me. Now, there's a few things that they're saying might help prevent this. This is stuff I really want to adhere to. The one thing is vitamin D. They're saying vitamin D might help prevent COVID. I have been taking vitamin D, a lot of vitamin D, for a long time now. Way before the pandemic. This has nothing to do with the pandemic. I take vitamin D. It's kind of a prereq for being a ginger. At some point in your life, the doctor's going to tell you, you got to take vitamin D. In my case, it was a lot. The doctor was like, dude, vitamin D, dangerously low. I was like, all right. So I started taking, I take pretty much the highest dose you can buy in a store. That's what I take. And I snort it. Or I take it rectally. That's how I ingest my vitamin D. I just shove it right up my ass or I snort it. I don't want to mess around. Okay, that part's not true. But I do take an intense portion of vitamin D on a daily basis. I have been for many, many years, and I will continue to. I also get a fair amount of sunlight, so I think that helps as well. Now, the other thing that there's speculation out there that might help prevent COVID is cannabis. And let me tell you something, folks. That is a piece of science I want to accept uncritically. As soon as they were like, we're speculating cannabis might help prevent COVID, I was like, I'm on board. And I will not accept anything that contradicts that theory. And every time I smoke pot, I say I am doing science. I'm not just smoking pot. I'm doing science. So there you have it. Science, baby. So again, all these other countries, they know how serious testing is a huge piece of the puzzle. We're so busy, arguing back and forth about vaccines, arguing back and forth about all these things that we just overlook that there are multiple components. There is no one component. It's just like when a regular person's sick. When you're sick, there's not one thing necessarily to make you better. It's a combination of things. You need to rest. You need to get plenty of fluids. You need to take your medicine. You need to do this. A pandemic, kind of a similar concept. It's not like there is any one thing, and there are multiple things. One of those things is testing. And we're completely just overlooking, just spacing on the fact that we are screwing up royally on testing at the behest of the capitalists, and we are getting price gouged and ripped off left and right, whereas other countries, they had testing available for free or low cost. And what's going on in the countries that had that? A lot of the countries that had that, they're going back to normal. Again, Denmark. Look at Denmark. They had testing everywhere. Teachers tested twice a week. They're not getting a quarter of their school children as new cases. They're not getting that in Denmark. We get that here in the U.S. So, and another thing, in Denmark, they have a higher vaccination rate than we do. Yeah, there's no getting around that. They have a higher vaccination rate. And, but it's not like it's obscenely higher. It's not like their vaccination rate is like, oh my God, it's so much higher. So what are some things we could do to get our vaccination rate as high as Denmark's? Now, I know you're thinking, Ron, we already got this covered. We tell unvaccinated people they don't deserve any care at a hospital and should just die in the streets. That's how we do it. And, usually that's very persuasive. Usually, whatever you want somebody to act differently, you should tell them they deserve to die. And that usually has very, very positive effects. But here's a thought that I have. And again, this is another thing you're not allowed to talk about. Whenever they tell you, be it Fauci or whoever else, which we're going to get to Fauci in a second, whenever they tell you that everyone who has gotten the vaccine or who wants the vaccine has gotten it in the United States, that is not true. That is not true. There is a significant portion of unvaccinated people who are not vaccinated, not because they don't want the vaccine. They're not choosing not to get it. It's because they are scared to miss work. There's polls out there that's about 20% of the unvaccinated. I'd be willing to argue it's probably larger than that. They're scared to miss work. They're scared if they get side effects, they'll have to miss work. And that's why they're not vaccinated. So maybe a better idea would be to make sure that 20%, make sure that number goes down to zero. And anybody who wants the vaccine should be able to get it and shouldn't be scared of losing their job. Well, how do you accomplish that? Well, first of all, you should pass some policy that makes it illegal for employers to not give their employees time off to take the vaccine and to not give their employees time off if they get side effects and if they get sick for a day or two. That's something you can do. Another thing, hey, we've been screaming about this for 18 months. Give an emergency UBI to people. Give an emergency UBI to people so that they have some money, so that they have some resources. Because guess what? The people who fall into that 20%, we all know they're not white-collar workers or people who have a cushy job they're able to do from home. They're people who are keeping our grocery stores open, likely, keeping our pharmacies open. They're people who might be working in the gig economy, driving for Lyft and Uber. And they want the vax, but they're scared to miss work. So they're doing these jobs where they're around other people all the time. Probably increases the spread, don't you think? So let's get that number down to zero. And a good way to do that, an emergency UBI, and making sure employers can't discriminate for that. Making sure, hey, anyone who wants to get the vaccine, they need PTO to do it. And you have to give it to them. And if they have side effects for a day or two, you need to give them time off. You have to do it. That would be a way. That would be a way to up our numbers. And, if we had universal health care, that might help too. Yeah, just a little bit. That might help too. If we had universal health care, first of all, a third of all the people who died from COVID would still be alive if we had universal health care. And if we had universal health care, I'd be willing to bet our vaccination numbers would be higher because you would have more people having conversations with doctors they trust. When you live in a country where people don't even have a doctor, there are people in this country who don't even have a doctor. They're not having these conversations with medical professionals. When they have a hesitancy towards a vaccine, they don't get to talk to a doctor or a medical professional. They go and they watch videos online. And that is why Dr. Fauci and his ilk, and by the way, there's like 5 people who criticize Fauci from the left. I think there's like 5 people in the United States who do that. I'm one of them. Dr. Fauci has always been, at least based on the display that I've seen the past year and a half from the guy, he has always been a capitalist first and for public health second. And because of that, his entire life's work is in a complete miserable failure. We have failed. The United States has failed hard on every level in this pandemic. Every level in this pandemic, the United States has failed hard because of capitalism. And Dr. Fauci, when they brought up universal health care to Dr. Fauci, he made it out like they were talking about like getting a nice new car. Like he was like, oh yeah, universal health care. That would be neat. Instead of screaming at the top of his lungs, hey, we need to catch up to the rest of the industrialized world. They figured this out decades and decades ago. We need to catch up to them if we want to get this pandemic under control. We need universal health care. He's making it out like, oh, it's a nice perk. As if he doesn't know the results we would have if we had universal health care versus not having it. He knows. And it's amazing that somebody with his job wouldn't be screaming for that at the top of their lungs. And that's why he has his job. Because to have that job in a place like the United States, you got to be a capitalist first, public health second. Fauci also was against putting price ceilings on the vaccines, was against, lightening up the restrictions for patents. He was against all that because of money. And that's why there's parts of the world where people are completely unvaccinated. And they don't have anything else available either. They just got nothing. They're susceptible, and there's more aggressive variants floating around. So add all those factors up. And what do you get? You get a disaster. And that's where we're at. And we're not even bringing up the testing crisis. And you know what? Not a fan of the New York Times, but kudos to them for at least publishing this opinion piece. And it is just an opinion piece. It's an opinion piece. But at least it's something addressing the obvious that we are completely failing when it comes to testing in this country. We're failing miserably. So I'm glad that's finally being talked about. And hey, I got to live through it some. I needed an instant test. I wanted to make sure I wasn't carrying this thing. I had to pay $30 to do it. And I couldn't get an appointment. I mean, there was one place. Like, I couldn't get an appointment because they're booked up. So, yes, there is some free testing out there, but it's incredibly hard to get. It's not very convenient. It's not very readily available. A lot of times you got to wait. And it's not affordable or free like it is in other countries in most cases. So, yeah. So there you go. We're going to move on to another topic here. And that is the fact that, guess what? George W. Bush, as I mentioned before, George W. Bush was in my neighborhood. He was in my neighborhood, and he had 2 events. One event was in Beverly Hills, and that was interrupted by Mike Preisner. The other event was in Long Beach, and that was interrupted by an academic named Jeb Sprague. Let's rewatch that Mike Preisner video, shall we? I know we watched it on Monday / listened to it on Monday, but it's very interesting. Why don't we give it another spin? Is that okay? Let's do it. Let's give it one more spin.
People at his disposal, and I used them. My dad used them.
He's praising Biden's warmongers, by the way. We talked about this on Monday. That's what he's doing, praising Biden's warmongers.
And mother, of course, was around too. And
Mr. Bush, when are you going to apologize for the million Iraqis that are dead because you lied? You lied about weapons of mass destruction. You lied about connections to 9/11. You lied about Iraq being a threat. You sent me to Iraq. You sent me to Iraq in 2003. My friends are dead. Joshua Castile. You killed people. You lied. You lied about WMD. A million Iraqis are dead because you lied. My friends are dead because you lied. You need to apologize. Apologize. Apologize.
Are you with this gentleman?
People booed him. Nobody stood up for him. They laughed at him when George W. Bush made his dumb little joke. But kudos to him for doing it anyway. Kudos to him for doing it anyway. So, and over in Long Beach, he was interrupted a second time. Let me go ahead and pull up that video. This is what happened last night in Long Beach. And this is interesting too. Which, George W. Bush, you got the welcome you deserved in Southern California. You were interrupted twice. That's what you deserve. Well, you deserve worse. You deserve to be, your welcome anywhere should be getting thrown in jail. But I'm proud of SoCal for standing up to you. So here's this one. This is the more recent one. Here, let's start it from the beginning.
Okay.
He said, your war destroyed the life of my cousin. You made a nightmare for my family. And George W. Bush said, okay. Just look at his face. He's like smiling half the time through this. This guy's a sick monster. All right, let's watch the rest of it.
This is not the time. This is not the time for that, sir.
It's not the time. It's not the time. We're just trying to host a war criminal. That's the host saying that. That's not George W. Bush saying that. We're just trying to host a war criminal. Oh, and by the way, Jeb Sprague, the guy who did this, Speakers LA, the organization Speakers LA, which I'm guessing is the organization that brought George W. Bush in, has banned him from attending all of their events for life. Which, guess who's not going to attend a Speakers LA event ever? This guy. So, fuck you, Speakers LA. First of all, fuck you for bringing George Bush in the first place. We don't want war criminals in our fucking town. So anyway, let's watch the rest of this.
Sir.
He waved. He waved. What a fucking asshole. He waved.
No, it is disrespectful to the audience.
It's disrespectful. This guy is yelling about how they use white phosphorus in Fallujah, a chemical weapon. He's yelling about war crimes. And the host here is saying he's being disrespectful to the audience. They're hosting a war criminal. George W. Bush is a war criminal who should be in jail. All right, sorry, I keep interrupting. It's hard not to get upset about this stuff. I mean, it really is. All right, I'm not going to stop it again. I apologize. All right, let's watch the rest. Watch/listen to the rest.
No. There we go. That's okay. Here's the thing in America. The good news is in other countries, the guy would end up in jail for yelling at a president. Here he's allowed to express himself. And I want to apologize for...
All right, so that's the entire audience. I don't know what he wanted to apologize for, but I'm sure it wasn't, committing a bunch of war crimes. I'm sure it wasn't committing a bunch of war crimes. And shout out to the guy who did that. And here's something he said that I also want to try to get him on the show. But here's something else he said that I thought was also noteworthy. Oh, wait, no, this is here. Let me check. Hold on. Let me pull up the thing I wanted to pull up. Oh, and apparently, where is that tweet? God damn it. Sorry, I lost the tweet that I wanted to show you guys. Oh, yeah, here it is. Here it is. Crazy. Not a single mainstream media outlet has reported Bush had both of his California speeches disrupted. Both of them. Not one of them, both of them. Well, thank you for doing that, Jeb. Which it's kind of ironic he has to say first name is George's brother. But thank you for doing that, Jeb. And thank you for doing that, Mike Preisner. Y'all are heroes. And that's freaking awesome. And yeah, I was actually, if you remember on Monday, I was talking about potentially going down to Long Beach to protest. I was going to be outside. I wasn't going to get inside. The reason I did not go down was because, again, Monday, late afternoon, I heard that I was, directly exposed to COVID. So I decided to play it safe. I'm not going to leave my apartment, and I'm going to get tested to make sure I'm not carrying it. So yeah, that's actually that's the reason why I didn't go. But yeah. So thank you guys for doing that. And it still bums me the fuck out. Again, in both cases, in Mike Preisner's case and in Jeb's case, nobody stood up with them. Now, again, I'll reiterate this. I talked about this on Monday, but I'll reiterate it just to say it cost a minimum of $200 to get in that event. So, it's not, if it was a free event or even a low cost event, everybody would be like, or at least half the audience would be all protesters. But because it's so expensive, people are like, well, I can't, that's a pretty heavy ticket. That's a pretty deep ticket. So it's a skewed sample size, if you know what I mean. But when they were applauding, they weren't applauding because of what Jeb said. They were applauding because he was being escorted out. In that video where you heard some applause, they were applauding, they were applauding that he was being taken out, not for what he was saying, not for him calling George W. Bush a war criminal. That's what they should have been applauding, but it wasn't. And same with Mike Preisner. In fact, let me pull this up. So Caitlin Johnstone highlighted this. Here, I retweeted it. Let me find it. This was a pretty epic view. I want to show it to you. And for everyone listening to the podcast later, you'll just have to hear me describe it. But this was beautiful. It shows their faces, and they just look like you know what? I'm not going to be able to find it. I'm sorry. It's going to take me too long. Oh, wait, no, here. I just found it. Okay. Here, Caitlin Johnstone singled this out. Check this out. Look at that. Look at that. All right. Look at that. Still thinking about these zombies from the Mike Preisner video. Look at this. So this is Mike Preisner's being escorted out. Look at those people. They all just turn. Oh, for those of you listening to the podcast later, go find it on Twitter. It's this. Look at them. Look at them. They look like, that's creepy. And that's naturally what they did. These are what George W. Bush fans are like, folks. These are what they're like. Oh, that's funny. All right. So here we go. So I am glad that happened. I'm glad that both George W. Bush events were disrupted. Stay out of SoCal, George W. We don't want you here. There's a handful of rich people willing to pay $200 plus that still think you're not complete garbage. But there's also people who don't want you here, and they're able to get in and let you know that. And shout out to Jeb Sprague and Mike Preisner for doing that. And that's the greeting. That's almost the greeting you deserve. The greeting George W. Bush deserves when he goes anywhere should be a pair of handcuffs. That's the greeting he deserves. But we'll take disrupting the event. Because we live in a country where he's rehabilitated. They're rehabilitating him. He's a bona fide war criminal. The entire world knows he's a war criminal. But here in the United States, because he had a fun little paint-by-numbers book, he gets to dance around with Ellen. And our comedians do their part in rehabilitating a war criminal. That's what we do in the United States. Our creatives help rehabilitate a war criminal. Gee, is it any big surprise that other countries, they outspend the United States 100 to 1 when it comes to funding the arts? Oh, and that one that we do spend, over half of it goes to the frickin' military. What a place. What a place. Hey, do you want to, I mean, even just in my corner, even just in my world, hey, do you want to have a mainstream talk show? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I could rehabilitate war criminals. That's a prereq. You got to rehabilitate war criminals. You got to yearn for the days of George W. Bush. What a ridiculously propagandized country we are. And when it comes to war propaganda, we lead the pack. There is no way there's any other country on this earth that is more propagandized when it comes to war than the United States. Even our creative class rehabilitates war criminals. Our creative class does that. They're supposed to be the people calling out the corruption. That's what comedy and satire has done throughout world history. Going back to the frickin' Renaissance when they would call out the corruption of the church. Here, no, I mean, in the United States, comedy's supposed to be David takes on Goliath. In the United States, they're like, we're going to team up with Goliath. It's remarkable. It is remarkable. And as someone who's a comedian in this country, you're just kind of like, ugh, gross. So it's a shame that we live in a country where George W. Bush is rehabilitated, but at least we can take some solace in realizing that not everyone has fallen for the rehabilitation. Don't fall for it. He's a war criminal. He belongs in jail. And shout out to Mike Presner and Jeb Sprague, because I'd like to think there was at least one person in that audience, at least one, who maybe went on the internet later that night and did a little research and thought, you know what? I was wrong. He is a war criminal. He should be in jail. I'd like to think that's the case. I don't know if it was or not, but I'd like to think that's the case. So, guys, I got a little bit of a music ending. I got a little bit of music news to end the show today. So it's weird. I'll say this real quick, too. So my super chats are not showing up, but it's saying that they're there. I think I got one. Yeah, it's saying that I have them, but I can't really see. I know, Venetia, I got yours. And I think that might be it, but it's not showing up in the chat, which is interesting to say the very least. And I know this stream in general is apparently demonetized. All right, let's see here. We got some music news to end. So one of the bands that I really leaned on a lot in college, and you know what? It's weird. I was about to describe this as a feel-good music story, but then I realized there's not really anything feel-good about this. It's just a music story. But one of the bands I leaned on heavily in college was REM. Big REM guy. I love REM. I don't listen to them as much as I didn't. For some reason, there's just something about, I don't know, college and REM. Maybe it's because they're from a college town, that they started in Athens. Maybe that's why. But there was just something about college and REM. And I went to college in Bloomington, Indiana, which, by the way, REM recorded one of their albums in Bloomington. I forget which one, but they did record an album in Bloomington, Indiana. So, But anyway, Michael Stipe said this recently. Michael Stipe, lead singer of REM. Here's some news Michael Stipe had for us, and I feel like he's just rubbing salt in the wound. Michael Stipe confirms REM will never reunite. We decided when we split up that it would just be really tacky and probably money grabbing, the singer said. Yes, but Michael, what if there are people who want to give you money? That'd be a little bit money grabbing. Yeah, but Michael, we want to see your band. I got to see REM before they broke up, fortunately. I am very happy for that, or grateful for that. But Michael Stipe has put an end to any suggestions REM could reunite, insisting that the band's breakup 10 years ago was permanent. God, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years already. I feel like that was like a year or two ago when he's like, yeah, we're calling it quits. It was 10 years. During an interview with the radio station WNYC to discuss the new Velvet Underground tribute compilation, that sounds cool. I should check that out. Stipe responded to a 2019 Rolling Stone article that speculated over the likelihood of REM reforming, describing it as wishful thinking at best. So, we will never reunite. Here's the quote from Michael Stipe. We will never reunite. We decided when we split up that it would just be really tacky and probably money grabbing, which might be the impetus for a lot of bands to get back together. We don't really need that. And I'm happy that we just have the legacy of 32 years of work that we have. Well, a bit of a bummer, but I respect his, I respect his take. I really do. I respect that they just decided, hey, it's just time. It's time for this to end. We feel like we've taken this as far as we're going to take it, and it's time for us to do other things. I respect that, although I wish he'd be like, we're going to tour one more time. As an REM fan, which, by the way, guys, we are really close to 100 likes. Please help us get there. Please give us a few more likes. We're almost there. Help us get to 100 likes, please. I appreciate it very much. Yeah. So, some of you guys are saying that the Smiths never will either. Yeah, I don't think they ever will. Although I feel my take on the Smiths is that I think Morrissey and Marr are kind of okay. Morrissey, of course, has kind of gone off the deep end lately, but I think on a personal level, him and Marr are okay. So I could see Morrissey and Marr maybe doing something together. And even though I think that the Smiths overall are an excellent band, and the bass, I forget the drummer. I know like Andy is Andy something is one of them, but the entire band is very, very good. But if I could just have more Marr and Morrissey, I'd take it. Yeah. Oh, Kate, you helped me out with the names. It's Andy or it's Rourke. Is it Andy Rourke or is it Mike Rourke and Andy Joyce? Is that what it is? I think it's something like that. But yeah, Kate's right. Rourke and Joyce are not fine with Morrissey. As far as I know, Morrissey and Marr are okay. Mike Joyce and Andy Rourke. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, I know that. I think Andy Rourke and Morrissey, they're the one. They really hate each other a lot. As far as I know, Morrissey and Marr are kind of okay. I would like to see the entire band, but if it was just Morrissey and Marr, I'd take it. And REM, I think they're just, it's weird. They could so easily do something together because as far as I know, I think they're all still in Athens. I think Michael Stipe splits his time between Athens and New York. So it's like they're all just I'm sure they run into each other and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure. Athens is a really cool, hip college town, and I love Athens, Georgia. By the way, it's a really cool place. I got to eat at Michael Stipe's restaurant before. He has a vegetarian restaurant. I've eaten there before. Very good place, and but I'm sure they run into each other. They're like, "We still reuniting?" No. All right. So there you go, folks. Music story to end the day. Not even really a feel-good music story, just kind of a music story. REM. Probably not going to reunite. So I can't see any super chats. If you are sending them, the super chats are screwy. I did get yours, Venetia, and thank you very much for that. Hopefully I actually get it. And let me go over to the Rockfin here. Venetia, thank you very much for the Rockfin tip. And you say such a relief about your test. Stay safe. Thank you very much for that, Venetia. Thank you very much for your generosity over on the YouTube and the Rockfin. Guys, if you want to support this show on the sustainability end, again, I will reiterate the best way to do it, Patreon. Patreon.com. Either be a Rockfin Premium member or Patreon, and then tip on Rockfin or Patreon. Patreon.com/Ron Placone for a give what you can level. You get all kinds of perks. I do Zoom shows for my patrons on a regular basis. I do a patron stream once a week where you submit the topics, and I just could do a stream based off what you submit. And I do theme songs for people. If you want a theme song, I'll make you one. You just have to ask me and tell me what you want in it, and I'll make you a theme song. I'm working on some new ones, and we'll be pumping some of those out soon. And that's all for a give what you can level. All the stuff I mentioned, you can get that for as low as $1 a month. It's whatever you're comfortable giving. I don't have any tiers, TIERS. I have no tiers on my Patreon. It's a tierless Patreon. So if you got a little bit to spare that you won't miss, please do consider it. Patreon.com/Ron Placone to help keep the show on the air because YouTube messes with us all the freaking time. We're not monetized right now. And yeah. So if you want to help keep the show on the air, patreon.com/Ron Placone. And thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for being part of this. Oh, I do have one other quick announcement since we're on the topic of music. My music mix is going to re-air this Saturday at 7 p.m. I want to say Eastern. You know what? Let me look it up. I meant to look this up ahead of time and I just straight up forgot. And I apologize for that. But let me look it up here before we sign off so I get that information right because I want to share that with you. And I did admittedly forget to look it up ahead of time, which was irresponsible of me. And I'll be tweeting about this too. So, you don't have to commit it to memory right now. I will be tweeting about this, but my special will be on Modern Retro Radio, which is just a bunch of music. It's just a bunch of new music that I've been listening to. It's not as punk heavy. There's a lot of punk, but it's not my first thing was a punk special. This one is a little bit of everything. It's punk, folk, hip hop. There's a lot of stuff. All right, so Saturday at 6 p.m. Central, which would mean 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. So 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. My Modern Retro Radio special re-airs on Saturday, and you can find that at modernretroradio.com. Check it out. I'm excited to share some music with y'all, and I know a lot of you didn't catch the first one because it was announced without there wasn't a ton of notice. When they announced when they were going to air it, so I only had so much time to get the word out. I have more time this time. So Saturday night, if you're around or even if you're out, put on some tunes, huh? Thank you guys so much for being here. You know the drill. Lucy, she says meow, and I say peace. Peace.